Lately, the question's been coming up on how I approach doing lighting keys and lighting design for movies. And I just wanted to show you some steps on how I approach some shots for Transformers 1. So in this scene from the archives in the prologue of the movie, Orion Pax is sneaking into the archives and he's confronted by these lasers that are on the ground. And this is kind of his first shot in the movie where you actually see his face and it's like his close-up. So this was a pretty important shot, and we wanted to make sure that he was on model number 1 and that he felt like he was coming out of shadow and it was a mysterious space. When I initially got the shot from our rough layout department, or our layout department from Chris Batty's team, this is how it came in. As you can see, the shoulders were kind of cocked off screen. The environment was our rough art model that had been blocked out by the camera department. And you can see that Orion wasn't on model yet. The first thing I needed to do was build a background. So this was actually a render from ILM. And I took that render from ILM and I did some color adjustments. I added some bokeh effect and also added depth of field so that when Orion stood in front, you could really feel that depth of field in the shot. I was able to get a really rough render from the department over at Industrial Light and Magic of his face and sort of how he felt inside the shot, and I added a little bit of a bloom glow behind him. And then from there, I started to adjust and tweak his warmth and then darken him down. So what I did was I actually went into exposure and dropped down the exposure on the outside. Then I started to clean up some of those highlights so it was more focused on his eyes and less on his head. And then I cleaned up some of the artifacting that happened on the model on the mouth to make sure it was nice and clean. And I did a red underglow hand painted in. And then from there, everything was just painting. So I did a lot of painting to get it to this point where I was looking at like the threshold and making sure that everything had its proper reads. And we could see the laser was all brought back in. And I did a lot of tweaks to get it to this point where the focal point is very much on the front in the center, like the laser had a hotspot in the center on the front focal point.